You won't believe what happened when the HOA president tried to force me to unlock my private lake cabin for her guests. It all started on a quiet weekend when I was planning to relax and enjoy some peace and quiet. But suddenly, the HOA president showed up at my doorstep, demanding I open up my cabin for a group of her friends who were visiting the neighborhood. She claimed they needed a place to stay, and of course, she thought she had the right to make that decision for me. Now, you might think, why not just unlock the door? But there's more to the story. This wasn't just a simple request. It quickly turned into an attempt at control, with her getting more and more upset when I said no. The audacity was unbelievable. As the president of the HOA, she thought her authority extended beyond just the neighborhood rules. But my lake cabin is my property, and I wasn't about to let her walk all over me. Things escalated in a way I never expected, and let's just say, it didn't end well for her. What happens next? You're going to want to stick around to see how this intense showdown plays out. To understand why this was such a big deal, let me give you a little background. I've lived in this neighborhood for years, and like many others, I keep to myself. I'm not involved in all the HOA politics or events. Honestly, I try to stay out of it. But, like everyone else, I've had my run-ins with the HOA president. She's one of those people who thinks the rules don't apply to her, and she uses her position to get what she wants. And trust me, it's not the first time she's tried to pull something like this. That day, when she knocked on my door, I could tell right away she wasn't in a friendly mood. She was acting like I was inconveniencing her asterisk by saying no. She's always had this air of superiority, like she's the queen of the neighborhood. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about my cabin. It was about the principle. It felt like she was testing how far she could push me, and I wasn't about to back down. The more I refused, the angrier she got. I could see her frustration building as she tried to guilt-trip me, saying things like, "Don't you want to be a good neighbor?" It wasn't just about opening the door, it felt personal, like she was trying to make me submit. And I wasn't about to let that happen. As I stood there, door half open, trying to process what was happening, she wasn't backing down. The HOA president started pushing harder, her voice getting louder with every word. "You don't understand. This is for the good of the neighborhood. You should be more accommodating. Think about the community." She said it like I owed her something, like I owed her personal favors just because she was in charge. I couldn't believe how entitled she sounded. I kept my calm, but inside, my blood was boiling. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a power play. She thought that, as president, she could make me do anything. And here's the kicker. She had done this before with other people. She used her position to get what she wanted, often with a smile, but always with an underlying threat. What would happen if I said no to her again? I had no idea, but I wasn't willing to let her push me around. As if on cue, her attitude shifted. She started playing the neighbor card, telling me how she'd done so much for the community and how *** should be more helpful. I'm sure some of the neighbors would buy into that, but I wasn't having it. This wasn't about being a good neighbor. It was about controlling me, and I wasn't about to let her walk all over my rights. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, she threatened to escalate it to the HOA board, saying they'd have a conversation about me not cooperating. It was like a dark cloud hanging over me. Would this turn into a bigger battle? How far would she go to make me back down? The power she had seemed limitless in that moment. But I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. The tension was unbearable. My neighbors were watching. I could feel their eyes on me from across the street. The stakes were getting higher. Would they side with me or her? I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't let her win. It wasn't just about my cabin anymore. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could control everyone. And as the words hung in the air, I felt the weight of the situation. What would she do next? Would I really have to face an HOA battle just to keep my own property private? The air between us felt thick, like a storm was brewing. I could feel my heart racing as she stared me down, practically daring me to cave. Her eyes were cold, calculating, like she thought she had already won. But I wasn't giving in. I stood there, firm and resolute, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling in my stomach. The pressure from the neighbors watching was unbearable. I could almost hear their whispers in the distance, some of them probably wondering if, the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This wasn't about just one request. This was about her using her position to intimidate people, to force them into doing what she wanted. I wasn't the first person she'd tried this with, and I wouldn't be the last if I let her win. But the threat of her pulling the HOA board into this felt like a weight pressing down on me. What if they sided with her? What if this ended up in a full-blown HOA war, with my reputation on the line? She wasn't backing off. In fact, she was getting more aggressive, trying to guilt me even further. "You're being unreasonable," she spat. "This is a small request. You're making this bigger than it is. You don't want to be the person who ruins the peace in this neighborhood, do you?" Her voice was dripping with forced concern, but I could hear the underlying menace in every word. For a second, I felt the pressure building. I could see the HOA president's friends waiting in the distance, probably talking among themselves, already thinking they had it in the bag. And what if they were right? What if I couldn't handle the fallout of defying her? But then I remembered, I wasn't the one in the wrong here. She was, and I wasn't going to let her turn my home, my privacy, into a tool for her manipulation. Just when I thought she might back off, she dropped the bombshell. "Fine," she said, her tone suddenly chilling. "But don't think you'll get away with this. I have my ways of making things difficult for you. I will make sure the board hears about this." The moment those words left her mouth, the tension reached a breaking point. My pulse quickened. Was she really going to go through with it? Was she capable of ruining my peace for good, just because I wouldn't let her have what she wanted? The finality in her voice made it feel like the calm before an even bigger storm. Would this become my fight for privacy? Or would I have to face the consequences of defying the HOA president's demands? The air felt heavy, and I knew things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. Just when I thought I had braced myself for whatever she could throw my way, something unexpected happened. As the HOA president made her final threat, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "What's going on here?" It was Sarah, one of my neighbors, someone I barely knew, but had always exchanged pleasantries with. I turned around, and to my surprise, she wasn't alone. A few more neighbors had gathered, drawn in by the commotion. At first, I thought they were just curious bystanders, but then I saw it. Sarah had a knowing look in her eyes, like she had been expecting something like this to happen. And that's when it hit me. Sarah wasn't just another neighbor. She was involved with the HOA in a way I hadn't realized. As she stepped forward, I noticed the subtle but unmistakable badge hanging from her neck. She was on the HOA board. It all came crashing down at once. This wasn't just a power play by the president. Sarah had been watching. She had been involved, possibly orchestrating this entire thing. And now she was standing there, pretending to be the voice of reason. "Is everything okay here?" Sarah asked, with the most innocent tone, like she hadn't just been watching the whole thing unfold. The HOA president's demeanor changed instantly. Her anger simmered beneath the surface, but now she was trying to mask it, turning to Sarah with an almost pleading look. "Oh, Sarah, you know this neighbor is just being difficult. I've asked for a small favor, and it's causing so much trouble." But Sarah wasn't buying it. She glanced at me, then back at the president. "I think we need to clear the air here," she said, her tone changing. She was no longer the friendly neighbor I had thought I knew. She was someone more calculating, someone who had been working behind the scenes. My mind raced as I tried to process what was happening. Was Sarah involved in all this to put pressure on me too? Was she the real mastermind? This was more than I'd bargained for. Suddenly, it wasn't just the HOA president making demands. It seemed like a much bigger game was being played, one I wasn't even aware of. And the stakes had just gotten a lot higher. The tension between Sarah, the HOA president, and me was palpable. The crowd of neighbors stood frozen watching. Was Sarah siding with me, or was this all a setup? I couldn't tell, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just a simple disagreement anymore. It felt like a political battle, with my cabin, my privacy, and my future in this neighborhood hanging in the balance. The next move was crucial, but what would it be? The air was thick with uncertainty as Sarah stood there, her eyes flicking between me and the HOA president. The crowd of neighbors shifted uneasily, unsure of what to make of the sudden turn of events. I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. My heart raced, but I held my ground, watching to see where this would go. After a few moments of tense silence, Sarah spoke up again, her voice clear and firm. "I think we all need to understand something here," she said, addressing the group now. "This situation isn't just about the cabin, it's about respect for personal property and privacy, and as members of this community, we're all entitled to that." She looked directly at the HOA president as she said this, a subtle but deliberate shift in tone that was impossible to ignore. The president's expression faltered for just a second, but she quickly regained her composure, trying to act like she hadn't been shaken. "I don't think you understand," the HOA president snapped, her patience wearing thin. "This is about the neighborhood, about the greater good." Sarah didn't flinch. "I think it's about power," she shot back, a hard edge in her voice. The tension in the air crackled, and for a moment, it felt like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. But then, just when I thought Sarah was about to fully side with me and end this madness, she turned to face me with a strange, almost apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, but I can't support you on this one." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach dropped. She wasn't going to stand with me after all. My mind raced. Was she in on this all along? Had she played me for a fool? Before I could process her betrayal, Sarah added, "The truth is, I was going to support you, but the HOA president, well, she has something I need, something my family needs. And that's more important than a single cabin in the woods." Her voice trembled slightly, but there was no denying the look of guilt in her eyes. I stared at her, stunned. For a moment, the world seemed to blur around me. Had I been played from the beginning? Was this all some sort of twisted game? Just as I opened my mouth to ask more, the final twist came.